Well, hello, Lone Branch and friends, and thank you so much for being with us today. I'm your Pastor Pastor Dogan, and we're at the Cancer Survivor Park in downtown Greenville. Well, it's a beautiful day, a little overcast, and watching people just walk by, ride by, and enjoy the day. I'm so happy to have with us today Dr. Cedrek McFadden. He's a colorectal surgeon at Prisma Health. And he's here to talk to us today about colorectal cancer and some of the things to not only deal with prevention, but also deal with how we should behave and how we should make sure that we're going for our checkups to make sure that our bodies not only are the temple of the Holy Spirit, but that they stay healthy as possible. Dr. McFadden, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, and thank you for hosting this. I think this is a phenomenal thing for your congregation.
Thank you so very much. Could you tell us just a little bit about what colorectal cancer is and how do you all detect it, and then how do you get rid of it?
Yeah, so 1 in 20 people will be diagnosed with colorectal cancer at some point in their life. It is the third leading cause of cancer death in men and women. This year alone, 50,000 people will unfortunately lose their life to colorectal cancer. The remarkable thing about colorectal cancer is it is preventable. It is a cancer that if found soon enough, we can actually prevent from occurring. And there's several ways in which we find colorectal cancer. One of which is just through routine screening, meaning you've reached the ripe age and it's time for that test. Now, what's that age? Do you know
the age, I've always been told is 45, unless absolutely. There's some type of detection in family members.
Right, absolutely. So, and many people will think 50 because that used to be the average age for everybody, but for African Americans, it's been 45 for several years now. But several years ago, the American Cancer Society changed those recommendations to 45 for everybody, all right? Now, if you have a family history of colorectal cancer, your mom, dad, brother, sister, you should begin screening 10 years before they were diagnosed. So if your mom was 42 when she was diagnosed, you're not waiting to 45, you're starting at 32, okay? So that's important to recognize. But we also find it through finding symptoms. The symptoms of colorectal cancer primarily include bleeding, that's anorectal bleeding. It doesn't matter if it's bright, if it's dark, if it's one time, if it's 10 times. Any bleeding is abnormal and you need to talk with your doctor. But you can also have changes in your bowel habits, meaning the shape of the stool changes, the size of the stool changes, the consistency or the frequency of which you have these bowel movement changes. That could also be a sign or symptom. Also, abdominal pain or unexplained weight loss could additionally be a sign or symptom. So these are the ways in which we find these. And what happens is in many cases, these signs and symptoms are either ignored or disregarded by not only just the patient, but in some cases your doctor. So being persistent about the problems you're having, bringing it to their attention and holding them accountable to figure out why you're having those problems, that leads us to find these colorectal cancers.
Yeah, Dr. McFadden, you said something that caught my attention, and you said that if you have a family history, it's 10 years before the 45, but not just 45, it's 10 years before the diagnosis of that family member. How important is it for families to talk? I mean, most people watching are African Americans. We're secretive. We don't like to tell what we're going through, what our families are going through. But can you just talk about the importance of being vulnerable to family?
Well, the secrets you keep in your family can be the secrets you take to the grave. And that can be a big problem. And that's why it's important, holidays or anytime you see family members, know what happened in your family. Know how they died, what problems they had, because in many cases, if you know that, it can influence the testing of not only yourself, but your children and their children. So it's very important that you know your family history for medical problems.
We're sitting here in the Cancer Survivor Park, and right in between us is the bench that Lone Branch Baptist Church gave towards in order to have this monument and a place that we could just give and be a part. How important is advocacy, and how important is it to really invest in research when it comes to cancer of any type, but especially colorectal cancer?
Well, the big part of all of this is having the awareness. Number one, knowing that it is a problem. When we look at colorectal cancer specifically, African Americans are 20% more likely to be diagnosed with colorectal cancer and 40% more likely to die from colorectal cancer. So advocacy, raising the awareness, letting people know that this is not just an old white man's disease, that younger people are also being diagnosed with increasing frequency with colorectal cancer. Anybody can get colorectal cancer. So advocacy, raising awareness is very important for this particular cancer.
You know, we talk about anytime researching or doing things for the doctors to screen the colon, normally it deals with a colonoscopy.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
you know, we don't like to prep for it, we don't like to talk about it. But can you talk about how the prepping really, the screening, it really outweighs everything that can come about, and how that early detection is so important?
Right, so there's several ways in which we find these cancers. The most commonly chosen method is the colonoscopy, and that is an outpatient 30-minute procedure. You get a nice nap during the procedure, you wake up and it's all over. Now, what most people don't like is the prep the day before.
Sure.
And that does require that you drink a lot of laxatives, that you clean out the entire intestinal tract so that we can see everything we need to see underneath. So we don't want to just have any paint on the wall. We want to see the wall as clean as possible so we can find these little polyps that, if left there to grow, can become cancer. Right? So that's why it's important that you do the prep. But the procedure itself it's great. You go home, you eat whatever you want that day, and if it's all cleared and there's no family or personal history, it may be 10 years before you do that test, again, if there are no new problems. I should also mention there are other tests that are available, and sometimes a patient won't have a colonoscopy, they refuse to do the prep, or they can't have a colonoscopy for a number of reasons. So there are some other tests that are available for you, and really the best test is the test that the patient will do.
Sure.
And so some test is better than no test.
Yes.
And so if I can get a patient to have some type of a test, I'm going to advocate for that particular test.
I want to end on a whole different note, and that is, you're an African American male, you're in the medical profession. I've heard little rumors that you have started an organization to get young people interested in the medical field. And I think that's so important, especially for Black and brown kids, to see people and role models as yourself going down the track of the medical profession. So can you just talk about encouraging young people to be interested and to become interested and to get exposed to the medical field?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges we have is just having the awareness that it's an option. And often we don't become what we don't see.
Sure.
And if we don't see young Black doctors, we won't know that that's a possibility. If all we see are athletes or people in entertainment, not taking any away from those types of careers, that may be all that we ever aspire to be. So one of the big challenges we have is just raising the awareness, letting them know that this is indeed an option, and then really being very clear about what does it take to get there, because it takes a lot of work, but it's a lot of work that's very rewarding, and it can be very fulfilling as a career and a profession. So we're doing a lot of things, certainly at the medical school here in Greenville, over social media, hashtag Black Men in Medicine. We're trying to get the word out to let people know that it is indeed possible to have a career in medicine and be a Black person in America.
Well, Dr. McFadden, thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy day and your busy schedule to come out and to be with us. And Long Branch, we thank you for all that you do for advocacy, awareness. And listen, I hope that you're asking people in your family and in your life, are they getting the proper screenings that they need? It's all part of Impact 2021, and we want to make sure that we're healthy, and not only that we're healthy, but we want to make sure that we're doing all of the great things, our diet, and making sure that we have a primary health physician, a doctor, to see about the things concerning our health. Listen, we love you, we thank God for you, and I hope that you will have a wonderful day. God bless you.